Did you know that long before Europeans arrived, the southeastern United States was home to thriving Native American civilizations? These lands were shaped by tribes who lived here for thousands of years, leaving their mark on the culture, the land, and even African American ancestry. But how did these connections form, and could your family's history include ties to these early tribes? Today, we're uncovering the stories of Native American tribes across Virginia, the Carolinas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Texas, exploring their deep connections and intertwined history with African Americans. Greetings and welcome. I'm Carolyn A. from GettingToTheRoots.com, where I help African American families uncover their ancestry through proven research methods and DNA insights. Together, we're preserving the stories of our past to inspire future generations. Let's dive in. For thousands of years, Native American tribes like the Tuscarora, Catawba, Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Natchez, and Tunica thrived across the Southeast. These tribes were part of advanced societies known for agriculture, trade, mound building, and intricate social systems. Before Europeans arrived, they had complex networks and relationships that shaped the land and their cultures. Virginia, which included what is now West Virginia until 1863, holds deep historical significance as the land of the Powhatan Confederacy. This alliance of Algonquian-speaking tribes dominated the Tidewater region when English settlers arrived in 1607. The Powhatan were agricultural experts, growing tobacco, corn, and other crops that sustained their communities. As European colonization expanded, the Powhatan Confederacy was dismantled, but its legacy lives on. African Americans with ancestry in Virginia may find connections to the Powhatan or other tribes that lived along the coastal plains. North Carolina was home to the Tuscarora and the Cherokee. The Tuscarora lived in the eastern part of the state and were known for their fortified villages and agricultural practices. They cultivated corn, beans, and squash, often referred to as the Three Sisters, which sustained their communities for generations. To the west, the Cherokee were powerful and well-organized, with towns and councils governing their lands in the Appalachian region. These tribes coexisted and maintained their way of life for thousands of years. After European settlers arrived, many Tuscarora were forced northward, while the Cherokee resisted until their eventual removal along the Trail of Tears. South Carolina was the domain of the Catawba and other smaller tribes like the Yamasee. The Catawba were renowned for their pottery and trade networks, living primarily along the Catawba River. They were allies to European settlers at times, but faced challenges as disease and conflict reduced their numbers. The Yamasee lived along the coast, thriving on fishing, farming, and trade until conflicts with settlers displaced them in the 18th century. These tribes interacted with African Americans, particularly as enslaved people escaped plantations and found refuge among Native communities. Georgia was the heartland of the Creek and Cherokee peoples. The Creek Confederacy united various tribes who shared language and culture, living in large towns along rivers. Known for their diplomacy and trade, the Creek were a dominant force in the region. The Cherokee controlled the northern parts of the state, where they developed advanced agricultural systems and a written language. Before the arrival of Europeans, both tribes had thriving societies, but the 19th century brought forced removals, disrupting their lives. Mississippi was primarily the land of the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Natchez tribes. The Choctaw were among the largest southeastern tribes, known for their farming and mound-building traditions. Their society was deeply connected to the land, with ceremonial mounds reflecting their spiritual beliefs. The Chickasaw lived in northern Mississippi and were known as fierce warriors and skilled traders. The Natchez, centered around what is now Natchez, Mississippi, were famous for their elaborate mound complexes and hierarchical society. After European settlers arrived, the Natchez were decimated by conflict, with survivors absorbed into neighboring tribes like the Choctaw and Chickasaw. Louisiana was home to the Tunica, Natchez, and Caddo tribes. The Tunica lived along the Mississippi River, where they thrived as traders and builders. The Natchez left behind one of the most famous ceremonial sites, the Emerald Mound, highlighting their spiritual and social complexity. The Caddo, to the west, were skilled farmers and builders, creating permanent villages and thriving in their environment. Louisiana's unique blend of native, African, and European cultures resulted in a rich history of shared traditions. Alabama was home to tribes like the Creek, Cherokee, Choctaw, and Chickasaw. The Creek Confederacy dominated much of central and southern Alabama, forming a network of towns along rivers. Known for their agricultural success and political alliances, the Creek were a powerful force in the Southeast. The Choctaw and Chickasaw also had influence in western Alabama, where they farmed, hunted, and traded extensively. Many African Americans with roots in Alabama share oral histories of connections to Creek or Choctaw ancestors, particularly in areas where Native communities offered refuge to escaped enslaved people or intermarried. Tennessee was largely Cherokee territory in the east, with significant Chickasaw influence in the west. The Cherokees' eastern towns were hubs of trade and governance, while the Chickasaw maintained control over key river systems. Tennessee's geography made it an important crossroads for Native tribes, and oral histories from African Americans in this region often include stories of interactions with Cherokee or Chickasaw communities. These connections may have formed through trade, refuge, or shared resistance to European oppression. Arkansas was home to the Quapaw, Osage, and Caddo tribes, among others. The Quapaw lived along the Mississippi River, where they developed strong agricultural communities and extensive trade networks. The Osage controlled much of northern Arkansas, known for their hunting prowess and territorial influence. In southern Arkansas, the Caddo thrived as builders and farmers, creating permanent settlements and ceremonial sites. African American families with roots in Arkansas may uncover ties to these tribes. Florida was home to the Seminole, a tribe with a remarkable connection to African American history. The Seminole provided refuge to many escaped enslaved people, creating Afro-Seminole communities. Known for their resilience, the Seminole resisted European colonization and even fought the U.S. government during the Seminole Wars. African Americans with roots in Florida may uncover ties to these unique and intertwined histories. Kentucky was a significant area for the Cherokee and Shawnee tribes. The Cherokee controlled the southern parts, while the Shawnee moved through northern Kentucky as part of their hunting and trade networks. These tribes played vital roles in shaping the region, and oral histories often highlight African American connections through shared spaces and cultural exchange. Texas adds the stories of the Caddo and Comanche tribes. The Caddo lived in eastern Texas, thriving as skilled farmers and builders with permanent settlements. The Comanche, a dominant force in the western plains of Texas, were known for their horse culture and extensive trade networks. African Americans with East Texas roots may find links to the Caddo, while the Comanche's interactions with displaced tribes and communities offer additional layers of connection. As European settlers expanded into these lands, Native Americans faced displacement, and African Americans were brought in as enslaved laborers. Despite the hardships, connections between these groups grew. Oral histories often recount stories of Native communities offering refuge to escaped enslaved people. For those exploring their ancestry in the above regions, the histories of these tribes offer vital clues. Did your family elders mention being part Cherokee, Choctaw, or Creek? Have you considered that your family's story might include ties to the Tunica or Natchez? Resources like oral histories, the Dawes Rolls, and Freedmen's Bureau records can help uncover these connections. Even when DNA results don't show Native ancestry, historical and cultural ties often remain. Well, fellow researchers, that's a wrap. Wait, if you're ready to start uncovering your family history, check out our video starting your DNA journey, what you need to know. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep exploring with us. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.